I love to read. But see, that's what I'm trying to tell you, that what does Once Upon a Time do? What does this story do? There are a lot of people out there who love stories but don't like to read. So this is a show that brings that story to you, and you don't have to sit with a book. You can just watch and imagine, and someone is telling you a story. And this is actually reading for somebody, you know. But you don't have to go through the process, and that's what the internet and the digital world has done for us. It has brought stories to us in different ways, and you don't have to sit with a book and read. There are different ways now.
I believe the medium, the mobile handheld users are a lot in the urban areas, and because these stories are told in English, I think a lot of urban audiences will like to hear some of these stories. As we progress, we'll see what to do, but I think we want to start off like this, keep it urban. Also essentially because a lot of mobile audiences and 3G and 4G audiences are in urban
cities. Yeah, ऐसा होता है. Sometimes the stories have a what if feeling. They have what if something like this were there. Like when you watch a film like Narnia, you know, you go into a world and you say, what if? You know, so I think stories answer a lot of needs. Sometimes there's a need for a message. Sometimes there's a need to create a world where you wish you were. And fortunately, all these stories that we have, which will be aired, have something or the other at the end of it that you take away. That your question is very important from that point of view, that at the end of 10 minutes, do you take away something?
Correct.
Yes, you take away.
Yes.
You either take away a message, or you either take away a what if feeling, and after you stop watching the story, you wonder what would have happened if the story were true.
Her hair stand on end. The sound was clear. The raspy, throaty breathing. She waited for a moment, allowing her rational brain to take over and remind her that it was silly to think of doors and posts and refrigerators. Sarana slowly opened the refrigerator, but there was nothing there, except for the supplies for the next few days. The breath was even louder though. The deep freezer in the top section seemed to be where it was coming from. Samana braced herself, and with all the courage that she could summon, she pulled on the refrigerator door, but it would not budge. It was iced in. She stared at it, heard the breathing sound as loud as a person sleeping next to her. They were wrong. It happened again. The breathing sound was unmistakable, but she could hear that it was more feminine this time. Not that she could make out clearly on the previous night. It was back to the refrigerator. And like the night before, she did not find anything in the main storage area. The deep freezer was where it was coming from. She put her ear to the door of the deep freeze. The breathing sounded like a wheezing sound, like an asthmatic woman, too human to be any compressor. Then a thought struck her. The light turned around to find Asha's body writhing on the floor, headless. The aorta pumping out blood from her neck to the beating of her heart. Petrified, Serena collapsed on the bloody floor, paralyzed. Asha's cell phone rang. It was still in her hand. She recognized the number. It was her mother's number. But she had been dead for 2 years. Sunana answered the phone. There was a whisper. It sounded like her mother. And it seemed to say, messages, messages, messages. Sunana looked through the messages on Asha's phone. Her eyes fell on a conversation between Asha and Jack.